Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, Time for Truth. My name's Christina, and today I'm going to be drinking out of this vintage Dunkin' Donuts cup. Got all the little things about New Jersey, the boardwalk, all the things. Kind of neat, found it in a thrift store. Fresca time. So thanks for joining me back on my channel where I'm talking about sad times actually. Distressing times. So I'll give everybody the lead into that, you know, if you're triggered by talk about, you know, elder abuse, family dysfunction, things like that, like now's the time to beg out, because that's what this is going to be about today. It's kind of like the art of war. And that was what was waged upon my mom and I by the nuclear family. Sad to say. So I'm starting back by where I left off, which was talking about Alan A. Anderson. And he's the geriatric and forensic psychiatrist out of Cambridge, Maryland at the time. This was in 2017. And I'm going to read a part of what he wrote because it's going to come up later in the probate matter. And so, as I mentioned yesterday, my mom scored very low on the mini mental. She wasn't able to recall things. She was getting her, me and her sister confused. This doctor says that it's in his opinion, with a reasonable degree of medical certainty, that Janice does maintain the mental capability to designate a power of attorney to help manage her health care and finances. This MD, I don't believe, was even told that my mom was in a memory care center. At any rate, he wrote about me. History is presented that would indicate the presence of undue influence and potentially elder abuse by the daughter, Christina. There is a history that would indicate potential financial abuse, with the daughter gaining access to large sums of money from her mother. Miss Janice Pratt had emergency department documentation on these concerns and voluntarily expressed the desire to change her power of attorney during that visit on April 1st, 2018. So they took my mom to the emergency room too and told her what to say so that they could build a case against me. This was again, that Alan A. Anderson. So, you know, where did he come from, right? Well, it was because the lawyer that my mother's sister had retained, Susan Seidel Tillman, this was my mother at the time, you know, and that's my husband in the background. I mean, you wouldn't know that this was before she was going into the assisted living, before she went into the memory care facility. So that was in 2018, I believe, is when I had to file a report, actually the end of 2017. Because that was when my mom was injured. And I actually filed a report with the state and said, what the heck, Atria Salisbury didn't report an injury. Nobody knows what happened to my mom. She's got a huge abrasion on her forehead and bruises. She'd only been in there for 3 days, maybe 4 days at the most. I went straight away and took her out right away immediately and filed this report. And it was validated. The requirement is not met with them reporting the injury. The facility failed to report an incident when a resident was injured. So this was, I'm already trying to deal with things with my mom and nonsense happening, and then all of a sudden I get this calls from detectives, calls from the police, this letter from interference from a lawyer in Maryland. It was hitting me from all angles. I had no idea what was happening. But I knew that I needed to be in touch with my mom's estate lawyer, which I was. I knew I needed to be in touch with the state. I needed to answer the questions that were being posed to me about theft of funds, which I did. This was on June 14th to the Berlin, Maryland Police Department, and I told them, if any of these false police reports or outrageous allegations are being made in an unlawful manner, I certainly hope you'll be turning the questions to the accusers. Where's the evidence any of them have to make such heinous allegations? And then I told them, if you have any other questions, please be in touch. I'm happy to provide whatever information you need. And that was how I always addressed it with the police, because I had nothing to hide. Because I was taking care of my mom under lawful authority, under a power of attorney, after she was increasingly getting worse in her mental state. So by the time that all of that was happening, so from June, actually Alan Anderson, he put on here that this was 2017. It wasn't, it was 2018. He even put the thing wrong, because here's Susan Seidel's letter to me, saying that she's writing on behalf of her client. Her client, my mom, was in a memory care facility with Alzheimer's. My mom doesn't have the capacity to hire a lawyer. That's number one. So then this letter became an issue in the probate because of the date and because of what the false allegations that this woman, Susan Seidel Tillman, sent my mother to. This man had never met my mother. She was accompanied by my aunt, who also made false statements against me by saying that, to her knowledge, her sister should have a lot more money than she has. Anyways, it was all the art of war, and war had been waged upon my mother and I. And my mother couldn't fend for herself, and I was having one hell of a time getting it from all angles. So I was trying to hire a lawyer in May of 2018, and he's all telling me I'm still in the process of reviewing the notes, blah, 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 blah. But here's what he says to me about changing a power of attorney. He talks about invalidating the POA and execution of a new one. You will need to prove, usually by doctors willing to certify the same in signed certificates and or through testimony, that your mother is incompetent. So that's why they sent her to Alan Anderson. And Alan Anderson did the best that he could to say, this woman is not competent. She failed the mini mental. She can't, her short-term memory loss is severe. But then he furthered the false allegations against me. So they put into place a plan of action that eventually came out in the probate matter. This was all happening behind the scenes with me having very little knowledge. And then this guy, Will Chapman, it was around Memorial Day weekend. Everybody was busy. Nobody wants to hear about a woman that's been taken across state lines. Then I get a letter from Susan Seidel Tillman on August 2nd. This is after I see with the phone that I had gotten from my mom, because her phone had been lost. And I see that Pam's calling, Dave's calling, other pictures I have, Jim's calling. They're all putting the plan into place. So then I get this letter from after Susan Seidel Tillman had changed the power of attorney, claiming that her client is Janice Pratt, my incompetent, sadly, with Alzheimer's mother. Miss Pratt would like to have the following items from you, and she's requesting that you send them to my office in Salisbury, Maryland. She goes off to rattle off all these things about what she wants me to provide to her, including all my mom's jewelry, all the credit cards and statements for the past 3 years, retirement and pension statements, bank information, telling me to send the above items with the exception of the vehicle to our offices. You'll be reimbursed for the cost of shipping. This is Susan Tillman. This is after she's changed my mother's power of attorney, named Carol, my mother's sister, who knows nothing about my mother and is estranged from her as well, and everybody else in the family, and now is demanding that I do things as if she's in control, because she took power of attorney. She named herself as the alternate. So now she's acting on behalf of Carol, and who's acting on behalf of Jim and Pam and Dave. Allegedly, in my opinion, based upon the evidence that I have. So I went back through and I see that, you know, on February 11th, 2020, so now we're February or whatever today's date is of 2026, I had left a Yelp review for Susan Seidel-Tillman, because when I talked with her on the phone, she was unwilling to discuss. She wanted to know where the money is, where are the funds. Like, talk to the detectives. The case is closed. I've been fully exonerated. What are you talking about? You need to undo what you've done. Yeah, we know that's not happening. Lawyers never admit that they're wrong, even when they're wrong. So I had left this review about her doing what she'd done, and I even referenced, because this was in 2020 when I'd found out about it. So they had all done this in 2018. I didn't find out about it until 2020 during the probate matter, of their evil doings, of what they had done behind the scenes to implicate me in criminal acts. My family wanted to see me go to prison. That was their intent. They didn't intend for me to have a YouTube channel and talk about it. They expected that I'd be put into prison on elder abuse and theft of funds, based upon what, you might ask? Because if I need to remind everybody, because sometimes I need to remind myself, is because they had decided that the condos that my mother received in the divorce proceedings, 3308 and 3310 Coriel Lane in Alexandria, Virginia, they decided that those were worth $200,000, and where's the money? $400,000. She stole it. My mother had sold those condos in 2003, 2004, whatever it was. She redid her whole house on the main line of Philadelphia. Had a home designer that worked with the general contractor. Those homes had mortgages on them as well, and she was paying a leasing company to manage them from Philadelphia. They were in Alexandria. That was where my father had beat me with his fists in the upstairs closet, causing me to jump out of the second-story window and go to my boyfriend Jeff's house, who took me in. Nobody called the police. I didn't even know I could call the police. I was so used to being beaten. So yeah, my mom was happy to sell those condos, but she didn't get $400,000 out of them like they accused me of stealing. No evidence whatsoever to support their allegations, just lies, supported by Susan Seidel-Tillman in Salisbury, Maryland. I left a Facebook reply to her today on the local Salisbury, Maryland page. I said, I haven't forgotten about you, Susan. And my profile for this YouTube channel is public on my Facebook page. So Susan, if you're watching this, shame on you. You caused serious harm believing that you were going to have a big old case in the little town of Salisbury, Maryland on Division Street against somebody that stole from their mother, abused their mother. No, you misjudged. And that's the Yelp review that I left for you, and you know it. And you know it's true. So then I'm dealing with the Berlin Police Department, because that's where all these false allegations have been leveled against me. The complainant is my aunt, but my aunt knows nothing about my mother, so she's being fed information from my three siblings. And I based that allegation on the fact that the three of them walked my mother into Legacy House of Logan. And that's in the police report from Logan, Utah. Receipts, time for truth. I have the receipts. Unbelievable what I went through, what they put my mother through, that they absconded with her. She was a sick, vulnerable woman in a memory care unit, and they didn't like that. And they wanted her money. They thought that she had the $400,000. That's why they did what they did. And then they found out, oh my God, she only has a fraction of that. What have we done? Well, we'll just dump her into Legacy House of Logan, who was complicit. And I remembered the name of the other manager over there that I dealt with, Megan Seiler. I looked her up today on the Legacy House of Logan website. She's no longer there. But Robin Goody's still there, the nursing director who stopped the calls from me to my mother. What do you have to say about that, Robin? You're the wellness director now. Bunch of BS. You had no right to shut me out from my mother. None. Zero. You believed a lie too. So y'all are just a bunch of boneheads acting like you're professionals. You're not professionals at all. You're liars and connivers. And you got sucked into a lie and you believed it. Because the Berlin Police Department in their report talks about my mother. While speaking with the victim, my mother, I was unable to obtain accurate information due to her diminished capacity. That the complainant, which is my mother's sister, said that I'd been spending my mother's money on her, on my house and vehicle. Like, they just pulled stuff out of thin air. Like, it was wild. And here's what this lieutenant says. Jeffrey Lawson. He says, I contacted the suspect. That's me, the suspect. I'm no longer the caregiver of my mother. I'm now a suspect. I contacted the suspect and spoke with her about her mother. The suspect, me, seemed to have a genuine concern about her mother and detailed several incidents that occurred between her and her mother with prior to her mother being placed into assisted care. The suspect, me, provided via fax numerous documents to include a medical and financial power of attorney listing her as the responsible party. I recontacted the complainant, that's Carol, my mother's sister, and advised her of the findings. Case closed, no criminal activity found. Unfounded. The charges all were unfounded. But that wasn't good enough because they'd already changed the power of attorney. See? So they still had legal authority over my mother. I'm still trying to get a lawyer in Maryland. I can't get anybody to call me back. They hear Susan Seidel Tillman at Baker Seidel, whatever the hell the name of the law firm is, whatever. They lost the city contract with Salisbury. That happened not long after all of this nonsense went down. I filed a report against her in Maryland too, with the bar. They cared less. But you know who cared? Gold Creek cared. Gold Creek cared. Gold Creek was where they took my mother from. You know what Gold Creek did? They sent me a cease and desist. That's what they did. I framed these. I put them up on my wall. I have so many cease and desists in my life, it's not even funny. That's because I talk back. I'm on 18 minutes. I'm going to go for a few more minutes on this. Yeah, they sent me a cease and desist, Gold Creek, because I said, where's my mother's records? Who let her out? Why did you accept this fraudulent power of attorney over the power of attorney that my mother executed naming me, that she was admitted into your facility under? What is going on? Oh yeah, they sent me a cease and desist saying defamatory statements against Gold Creek. Cease and desist from making any further defamatory statements. Remember I told you in one of my other broadcasts that they were transitioning in management? They didn't tell any of the new people coming in that they were going to have a big shakedown at the facility and that all the residents were going to suffer, including their caregivers. My mom was a victim. So later, when I think I found out about this in August of 2020, because I knew none of this back in 2018, what was going on. because it all had been hidden under the cover of darkness and evil. And Susan Seidel Tillman bought into evil. And Alan A. Anderson furthered evil. So these mofos sent me, the cease and desist, and I said, yeah, you can put that where the sun don't shine. And so then I filed they wouldn't release my mom's records. Oh, we don't have them. We don't have any record of your mother even being here. So I was back to the Office of Healthcare Quality in Maryland. And of course, then I sicked them on them, and they were founded for not, they were in violation. But what happens? Nothing. My mom's already taken. No. Here's what it says. The findings. And this is not easy to follow up while I'm going through all the nonsense, being hit from all different angles about everything, not knowing where the next one's going to come from, and then having to file complaints along the way. For what? So they can still be in business doing whatever they do? Yeah. Here's what was, the findings include, on September 22nd, 2020, a request to review resident number 1's medical record revealed that the record was not available for review. On 9/23/22, the facility administrator revealed during an interview that she was unable to locate the records. These are the records of my mother being admitted to Gold Creek in Berlin, Maryland, where I was chased down by the police of having abused my mother, stole $400,000 from my mother, dealing with police officers and detectives calling me. This is after I've already had the Delaware State Police sicked on me. So at this point, my mom's been taken to Utah. Nobody can tell me. Nobody can tell me what's happening. The police chief in Berlin, he said, well, she's been taken on an extended vacation. These are the things that happened, and they can't be undone. And Robin Goody over there at Legacy House and Megan Seiler at Legacy House, they're people that have assumed authority because Pam told them lies and admitted my mother into that facility under fraudulent terms, under a false power of attorney prepared by Bretton Hadfield, who was a partner in the law firm of Peck Hadfield, Baxter, and whatever the fuck. So after I found out that my mother was in Utah and that a new power of attorney had been done, even a newer one, I resigned. I resigned my authority because whatever happened to my mother, I was no longer responsible for. They were solely responsible. And the end result was that my mother suffered. That's documented. She was abandoned. And she died under the care of those she never, ever, ever wanted caring for her. And the worst part about it is that Bob Pratt knew everything then. Here's what he was doing. He's over at the marina on the boat, acting like the big man on campus. Because I wanted to know what he was up to during this time. Friday, April 26th. Oh, I love this place. This is something that one of the owners of the marina posted. Mr. Pratt has been a customer of Deltaville Boatyard for some time now. He recalled meeting Keith Ruse, owner, about 3 years ago when Keith was giving a demonstration on Garmin units. He's been a customer and friend ever since then. Quote unquote, I told Keith to let me know if anything is deficient because I wanted it right. I've been cutting him checks ever since. That's Bob saying that, my father. While he takes it fishing and exploring, for him, knowing his boat is safe is most important. My grandkids are on this boat, and I know it's safe. He also does training for the Coast Guard Auxiliary, and he needs to know it can be relied on. Most recently, Mr. Pratt has had the stainless steel replaced on his boat, as well as much of the woodwork, and Deltaville Boatyard installed a full Garmin suite. See last week's post, which I didn't see. Thank you, Mr. Pratt. We hope you and the grandkids enjoy. That's what my father was doing. While my mother was abandoned in a godforsaken facility in Logan, Utah by Pam and Jim and Dave, his troops, doing his dirty work. And then he knew everything. My mother's worst, absolute worst nightmare came true. He knew everything, all about how she suffered. Shame on you, Bob. Next, I'm going to talk about what happened when I hired lawyers, and I'll end it on, I did send my mom a really cute little cake for her 79th birthday. Yeah. You know, my mom, she was a neat lady. I loved her a lot. She was my best friend. You know, we had each other's back until family interfered and did a lot of harm. And I'm really ticked off about it. And everybody walks around like, you know, they can just run off and wash their hands of it. No, it happened. And I'm here to talk about it. So thanks for listening, everybody who's tuning in, including my cousin in Maryland, my cousin in the mountains of California. You know, I know that it is hard to hear about family stuff, but you all have also reinforced with me the behavior of my father, not only in his own family, but in the extended family. And I don't have to not talk about it, especially after what he did to my mother and what allegedly, because his 3 troops did it. They did the legwork, as usual. But anyways, thank you for listening. And my next video is going to be about when my mom got to Logan, Utah, and died. Heartbreaking. I was shut off. Terrible thing. Don't do that, people. If you have family, don't do that to your family members. Give people a chance to say goodbye. It's the right thing to do. It just is. At least that person can say yay or nay. But to just let people know after somebody's passed away, or to take somebody when they're sick and interfere improperly, that's even worse. That's unforgivable. I absolutely don't forgive or forget.